All right, let's talk about Venus. You've probably heard it called Earth's twin, right? Well, think of it more like Earth's evil twin. Because this is a story about how two almost identical planets took wildly different paths. One became, well, our home, and the other? It turned into a literal hellscape.
I mean, look at the stats. On paper, they're practically identical. We're talking a rocky planet with a metallic core, almost the exact same size and structure as Earth. But that's where the family resemblance just stops. Because if you were to stand on Venus, you'd be dealing with temperatures hot enough to melt lead. We're talking 470 degrees Celsius, hotter than any other planet in the solar system. So you have to ask, what went so wrong?
So that's the big question, right? How do you get two cosmic twins, and one ends up a paradise while the other becomes that? It's a massive planetary mystery, and that's what we're going to dig into today. And believe it or not, our very first clue is all about how Venus experiences time, and it is weird.
Okay, so let's start with clue number 1. This world is literally turned around. The first hint that something is just off with Venus is its rotation. I mean, it doesn't follow the basic rules that pretty much every other planet, including ours, plays by. So let's look at a Venusian year. That's one trip around the sun. It takes about 225 Earth days. Okay, makes sense. It's a bit shorter than our year, but hey, Venus is closer to the sun, so that checks out. Nothing too strange there. But what about a Venusian day? Get ready for this. A single day on Venus, just one rotation on its axis, takes 243 Earth days. No, that is not a typo. A day on Venus is longer than its year. It's the only planet in our entire solar system where that's the case. Just think about that for a second.
So what does that even mean in practice? Well, for starters, it means everything is backwards. The sun rises in the west and sets in the east. Experts call this retrograde rotation. And because of this slow, backward spin, the time from one sunrise to the next is actually 117 Earth days. Oh, and one more thing. Venus spins almost perfectly straight up. It's got basically no axial tilt. And you know what that means? No seasons, ever. Just an endless, brutally hot cycle. So, a planet with a totally messed up sense of time? That's just where the weirdness begins. For our next clue, we have to imagine we're actually going there. So let's peel back those beautiful, brilliant clouds and take a look at the hostile world hiding underneath that orange sky.
You know, when you look at Venus from Earth, it's gorgeous. After the moon, it's the brightest thing in the night sky. Just this serene, perfect white jewel. And that's all thanks to its thick clouds, which are amazing at reflecting sunlight. But those clouds, they're hiding a really, really dark secret.
Because if you could magically teleport to the surface and somehow survive, which you wouldn't see anything white. The atmosphere is so thick, it acts like a crazy filter. The rocks themselves are just a dull gray, but that dense air scatters the light so much that everything, and I mean everything, would be bathed in this dim, suffocating orange glow. Creepy, right?
And here's another one of those moments where Venus seems to be mocking us. It has a huge mountain range, and its tallest peak, Maxwell Montes, is 8.8 kilometers high. Does that number sound familiar? It should. It's the exact same height as Mount Everest. But that's where any similarity ends, folks. On Everest, you're battling freezing temperatures and thin air. On Maxwell Montes, you'd be instantly cooked at 470 degrees Celsius and simultaneously flattened by pressure that would crush a submarine.
And the ground beneath your feet tells a really violent story. Geologically, the surface of Venus is basically a baby. Sometime between 300 and 500 million years ago, the whole planet just erupted. Widespread volcanic activity completely repaved the entire world, burying everything that came before. It's a huge reason why we don't see many small impact craters. Yeah, the atmosphere burns up the little stuff, but this massive makeover literally wiped the historical slate clean.
So we've got a bizarre spin, a volcanic paved surface, but you know what? Those are just symptoms. The real villain of the story, the clue that solves the whole case, is the one thing we haven't looked at closely yet. It's the very thing that makes Venus so beautiful from afar, its atmosphere. This is the great suffocator. This is what turned Earth's twin into a planetary oven.
And here it is, the recipe for disaster. The atmosphere on Venus, It's 96.5% carbon dioxide. For comparison, Earth's atmosphere is less than 1% CO2. This isn't just a clue anymore. This is the smoking gun.
So what does all that CO2 do? It creates something scientists call a runaway greenhouse effect. It's actually a pretty simple but terrifying process. Sunlight comes in and heats up the ground. The ground then tries to radiate that heat back out into space. But that super thick blanket of CO2, it just won't let the heat escape. It traps it. So the planet just gets hotter and hotter and hotter until any oceans that might have existed just boiled away into the atmosphere.
And it's not just what the atmosphere is made of, it's the sheer amount of it. The atmosphere of Venus is almost 100 times heavier, more massive than Earth's. And all that weight, all that gas pressing down, creates an absolutely insane amount of pressure on the surface, about 92 times what you're feeling right now.
Okay, want a way to really feel that? Imagine diving into the ocean. Now keep going down, down, a mile deep. The pressure on Venus is even worse than that. It's like being 1,600 meters, or about a mile, under the sea. It would just crush you. It's exactly why those old Soviet Venera landers, the only things to ever touch down and send back pictures, only survived for an hour or two before they were completely destroyed. And as if the heat and pressure weren't enough, this atmosphere is hostile in just about every other way you can imagine. Those pretty white clouds, they're not made of water, they're droplets of sulfuric acid, as in battery acid. High up in the atmosphere, you've got winds blasting at 360 kilometers an hour, circling the entire globe in 5 days. You've got constant lightning. So you've got this sky of acid rain and furious winds, all happening high above a surface where, weirdly enough, the air is almost still.
All right, so let's put it all together. The verdict is in, we have our clues, and we have our culprit. The atmosphere. It's time to lay out the full story of how these two planets, these two twins, ended up with such different fates.
So here's the step-by-step story of how Venus failed. Step 1, Earth and Venus form looking pretty similar. Step 2, Venus, for whatever reason, develops this incredibly thick CO2-heavy atmosphere. Step 3, that atmosphere kicks off the runaway greenhouse effect we talked about, boiling the planet and cooking its surface. And here's the final piece of the puzzle, the nail in the coffin. Remember that super slow, backward rotation? It wasn't just a fun fact. It meant Venus never developed a strong magnetic field like Earth has. Without that magnetic shield, the sun's solar wind just sandblasted the planet for billions of years, stripping away any water that had boiled into the atmosphere and ensuring it could never rain. The oceans could never come back. Game over.
And that's what we're left with, this powerful, kind of haunting idea. Venus isn't just some other planet out there. It's a cautionary tale. It's a look at what can happen when a planet's climate goes off the rails. It really is, in the simplest terms, a version of Earth that failed.